Happy New Year, everybody. We are back, and hopefully you're all well and not Omicron. I've turned it into a verb. I'm going to make every single article a speech out of Omicron before this is all done. But, Tim, it's been a brutal week.
Oh, wow, man. Look, they've been falling hard and fast, but I got to tell you, it's been the old guard. That's going down, and so in that way, it's kind of okay. Where do we start with Peter, with Betty?
Well, Betty was the last day of the year, just barely 2 weeks shy of her 100th birthday. As far as I'm concerned, she made it to 100. Yeah. I'm just gonna say she fulfilled most of that 100th year.
Yeah,
she lived 99 years. Excuse me. And almost all of 100th year. So for my money, that counts as...
Yeah, I was going to say, when people say she almost made it, I'm like, how are you people counting? We start at 0 and go forward. The first year is 0 to 1. Now, she's 100 freaking years old. And I think there was a documentary in the works that I think they've renamed. It was called something like Betty 100 Years or whatever. But they renamed it. To whatever the hell they renamed it, but it was still
99.9
or something, whatever. But there it is, Betty White, who over my 30 years, working red carpets and this, that, and the other thing here, I ran into a lot. Where I got my Betty White. I wish this were a video podcast.
Oh, there she is.
On which she wrote "Kisses, Betty" for me.
Oh man.
There and it's just fantastic. But my favorite Betty White. Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I don't know. Maybe you and I talked about this. I can't. But Sue Ann and John Amos, who's still with us, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Who played the weatherman?
He's the last.
He is truly the last. Yeah.
He wasn't. He wasn't the core that we always kind of see in the.
Oh yeah, Gavin and Mary and Ted. He's lost Ted a long time ago, and of course Ed Asner not too long ago actually.
All last year, all like in the last 2 years. I mean, nearly that entire cast, apart from, Gavin MacLeod and Rhoda, all of them. They like in the last.
Yeah. Ted like some years ago, but right there. Yeah. But John Amos was on that show quite a bit. Loved him on that show. Playing that weatherman, and he did. And John and Betty or Sue Ann on that show. Just look up some scenes that involved. They had a thing. And it was really, 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 really cool. So, there you go.
And she, I had forgotten, but she produced her own show in 1954. We always talk about, Lucille Ball was the first woman to, produce her own show on television. But you know what? Betty White was the second.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Life with Elizabeth, I think was it. On the air at the same time. The Ricardos is out there bumbling around right now, but on the air at the same time as when they were recording over there. Betty White. So she came on television as television became a thing. The first time, the very, 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 very first time she was broadcast over the air was in 1939.
No,
1939, experimental sort of, but anyway, it was Betty White. So there you go, Betty. And then what do we got? Peter Bogdanovich. You and I used to run into Peter Bogdanovich all the time when we were part of a different press organization.
Yes, and Bogdanovich was interviewed. We weren't part of it, but Ray interviewed Bogdanovich for our documentary Schlock in New York. And I'm thrilled that he's just a wonderful part of it. Roger Corman's now the only surviving interviewee for our documentary.
Yeah, wow.
Makes me feel good. But Bogdanovich, was, and what I didn't realize, you told me this, I was looking at that photo, that famous photo of, obese Orson Welles when he was practically homeless and he was rooming with Bogdanovich and they're shopping for groceries in that cart filled with junk food. And Bogdanovich is, just a young man. And Orson Welles is like a fat old dude wearing an ascot. And I thought, that's where he got the ascot. He borrowed it from Orson. And then you told me you heard it first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So he told me himself. I had a bunch of opportunities to chit-chat with Peter. Cross velvet ropes and red carpets or sit-down interviews with this, that. Cats Meow. What was that, 2000? won something like that was not his way. I think he had a doc. He did a documentary, about, I want to say Buster Keaton, maybe a couple of months ago. A few years ago. And look, here's the thing about him. He did just about everything one can do in the field of cinema. He was an actor. He first began as an actor. He wrote about cinema, not unlike the guys out of the new wave, and then started making movies and producing movies, and then started writing histories about cinema figures and John Ford and so many people, and while making that early 70s run, late 60s, early 70s run from Last Picture Show.
It's amazing. And look, he had a movie just a few years ago. I mean, She's Funny.
She's Funny That Way. Right. Yeah.
Right. Which made no money. And I don't think it got a proper release, but I thought it was a wonderful film. I mean, I was one of the few that just thought, what a great little movie. It's just a perfect, throwback Peter Bogdanovich movie that would have had Barbara Streisand in it if it had been made 4 years ago. But what a great, he didn't have enough of a career, but what a great career he did have. And he was a film critic originally. We forget that. Esquire, he started as a film critic. So he led the way for all the rest of us. Very, very, very sad. But what a scholar and a gentleman. Funny. And then, Sidney, dude, you spent the whole day yesterday just talking about Sidney on.
Yeah. Sidney Poitier, who I'm so lucky that I was able to, again, encounter him, late in his career, which is still 30 years ago, in 1992, when he made the movie Sneakers, him, Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd. Phil Alden Robinson film, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Phil Alden.
A neat movie, and I did the junket and the red carpets and all that business way back then, and so that was my moment, actually encountering and talking to and having a moment with Sidney Poitier. And I joked with the guys that I actually have those interviews on tape, Beta SP. Somewhere. But what are you going to do?
And Poitier is. I'm trying to think if there are many of that stature, those movie star giants left among us. And there's Hackman, there's
Harry Belafonte's still walking around.
Harry Belafonte, Jack Nicholson. I'm trying to. Pacino. Right there's a handful that we can kind of assign that stature to, but I'm still not even sure, because Poitier was like you've often said that he wasn't just an actor. He was sort of carrying the hopes and dreams of a whole community on his shoulders for almost 20 years.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
And how do you, I've often wondered, how do you emerge out of that burden to still pull off the performance, knowing that you're doing both of these? You've got to be the character, but you've also got to be the icon. How do you do that? I
can tell you what he told me, and he said it many times in media if you look up. But way back then, he came to understand exactly what he was going to represent very early in his career. He played that doctor in No Way Out, opposite Richard Whitmark.
Right.
They were very good friends, by the way. Friends that from then until Richard Whitmark died, they were very good friends. Made a bunch of movies together, the long shifts and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And he and Richard Whitmark talked about this, and Richard Whitmark told him, he says, "You're the best actor I've ever worked with." This is Richard Whitmark talking to Sidney Poitier. And he had been around for a little while then. And Sidney Poitier said, I knew he was right, and that I was going to have to be that person. He made a very specific decision about what that would represent, what that meant, and that guided everything he decided to do from that point forward. So it was really kind of a straight line for him. Once the decision was made, and he luckily was able to make it very early in his career, and then he just walked the path.
That's so interesting because, you know, it's interesting because we obviously all have our favorite roles. I mean, when you think of Sidney, what do you think of?
It's funny because I know a lot of people in the heat of the night, you know, the first they call me Mr. Tibbs and all that kind of thing. I get all that. That's fantastic. Love all that. But I go straight to Buck and the Preacher, which was the first film he directed because I think it was Joe Sargent. Yeah, Joseph Sargent, who was the director, issues, problems, he pulled out. Sidney Poitier got the film. So this sort of unexpected handed his directorial debut.
Interesting.
And he takes this film, which broke even. It was not a big, gigantic box office success, but over the years it became a touchstone for black audiences. Anyway, this is what Buck and the Preacher is about. Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte. Sidney Poitier is set right after the Civil War. Sidney Poitier is a black ex-soldier, and he's leading a wagon train of black ex-slaves out west.
Great movie.
He runs into Harry Belafonte, this nutty guy, and all this kind of stuff, and they eventually team up. And this film is about these two black men taking their people out west to establish a community and lives for themselves, and how they're willing to do whatever it takes to get them there, how they ally themselves with the Native Americans as they go, how they ally themselves with good white folks as they go. There are these, because at the same time that was happening, all these Swedes were immigrating to the United States through all this kind of stuff, and they allied. It's just this really deeply complicated film that hits all of these beats, and this is like 1972, 73. Plus, it's funny as hell. Sidney Poitier pulled that off in his very, very first film. His directing career is one that doesn't often get enough, to be honest. Yeah. Particularly those early films. Look, some of the funniest films ever made were made by Sidney Poitier. First of all, let's do it again. Uptown Saturday Night. Let's do it again.
Uptown Saturday.
Oh my God! Still funny, by the way. Still hysterical. Let's do it again. One for the Money. And then when he started working with Richard Pryor, one of the funniest Richard Pryor films on earth, Richard and Gene Wilder, Stir Crazy. Yeah. That's a Sidney Poitier film. You know, it's just, you know, really goes a long way, man.
Well, you know, when I think of it, I go to is the Blackboard Jungle.
Oh man, what a wonderful movie.
You know, because I was talking to somebody just a couple of days ago. I was talking about The Awful Truth as the movie where Cary Grant discovered Cary Grant. Like it's in The Awful Truth where Cary Grant says, "Oh, this is who I'm going to be." And you see it happening in that movie with Irene Dunne. You see Cary Grant figuring out his persona. Because who Cary Grant was in movies is not who Cary Grant was in his private life. But he had to figure out who he was going to be for millions of people. Mm-hmm. And I think in Blackboard Jungle, I got that same thing out of Sidney. You know, as this young kid who's supposed to be kind of a delinquent, but he's not going to play the delinquent, right? He's giving him a certain dignity that was not on the.
Oh yeah, Glenn Ford film. He's playing Glenn Ford is the teacher, and you know, Sidney Poitier and all these kids in this room. You know, and then what's interesting about that? X number of years later, what does he play? Just Sir with Love. Now that's right. He's the teacher with all of these British kids. And I'm just, you can watch those two films back to back and see how they inform each other.
That's so interesting. That is so interesting. That's absolutely true. I'd never made that connection before, but it's just when you watch The Blackboard Jungle, which, you know, at the time, Poitier is not a star. He is not a known actor. He's a little bit like James Dean was some years earlier. You know, you're getting your parts and people are starting to notice you and you're here and there. But, you know, that's a Glenn
Ford film. Yeah.
And here's this kid, here's this young black kid with this voice and this look who just takes a part that was written one way and gives it a whole different persona. And knowing in hindsight what he would become, when you watch that part, you see him doing that same thing that Cary Grant does in The Awful Truth. You see him saying, I know who I'm going to be. And even though this role isn't written in that, I don't care. I'm going to make this role belong to me rather than the other way around. That's a movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's a movie star move. And I mean, how old is he in that movie? 21.
He's probably 21. He's playing, 16, 17, but he's probably 21. Yeah. And straight off, he had done one other thing, but straight off Broadway, really, is where he had been.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing. And look, we can go on talking about the dead guys all day, but there's this moment in the late 60s, 67, when he has those three films, Lilies, In the Heat of the Night, three major films, 67.
Yeah.
And Guess Who's Coming? Guess
Who's Coming to Dinner?
And that year is particularly interesting to me as he's in the heat of the night. He's in the heat of the night.
Which I love, and I can't stand Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
I like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's a funny thing. Stanley Kramer.
Catherine. Well, first of all, Stanley Kramer wears everything. But the other part is that Katharine Hepburn's niece is a terrible.
Oh, she can't act at all,
and she can't act at all. And that whole movie, all I can think of is, Sydney, why are you with me? It's not worth it. She's not worth it. It's not worth the trouble.
I will not defend her, but I have always defended that film. That film had issues at the time vis-a-vis the black community. Again, a sector of the black community. 1967, you got this other up and coming Black Panther-y types, and they're having issues with that film and carrying that film
because it's one of those credit to your
lesson.
But Sydney,
now, my mother. In her generation, not to mention my mother's mother, my grandmother's generation, they didn't have any issue with that film or Carrie or Sydney in that film at all. There was a generational divide about that, and it's funny that divide continues. In 1967, I was 6, so obviously I didn't see that movie then. I saw it years later, and I saw a different thing, I think, perhaps than either one of those two groups of people. For one thing, what I saw was a young black man, Sidney Poitier's character in that movie, saying to both the white folks in the film, Spencer and Catherine, and to his own parents in that film, father played by Glenn Morgan. I'm not going to do anything either one of you people are. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do, because and that's what's going on in that film, But various different generations thought it took it. But literally that same year, he's in the heat of the night opposite Rod Steiger, and there's a scene in that film, and the scene I'm about to describe. Everybody's seen it.
We talked about it earlier.
But when that old white judge down south slaps him, and Sidney Poitier Virgil Tibbs immediately slaps him back. That was a slap heard across certainly Black America. And
I told you this in an email because I just watched the film, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it still holds up because what's going on in their eyes and in their faces fills in the blanks. Even if that context it does not exist today, their acting brings you into the context.
You're absolutely right.
It lives forever in that, right. And it's just a perfect film.
Man, for people who don't know, that was not in the script. He was supposed to get slapped and walk away. And it was Norman Jewison, right? Norman?
No, and yes, it was Norman. In fact, Norman Jewison told me that whole story too. I interviewed Norman Jewison, did an evening with him some years ago. And I have his signed book upstairs too, which is just lovely. But he even said that was Sidney's idea.
Yes,
and Sidney said he said, you know what, I can't allow this to happen. This is just not what that character would do. And Jewison said, okay. do what he would do. Jewison had no problem with it. Jewison was like,
absolutely, and didn't tell him. Only he and Norman knew. And so when Slap. They get slapped, and what I love is that all those actors, the old butler standing behind them over there. Yeah. None of those. The judge plainly did not know. I love that those professional actors Just stay in the scene, man. Just stay in the scene. They just stay in the scene, man.
So
I'm like, now see, those are professional actors right there. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. All right, I guess I'm over myself.
Well, and then
oh yes,
the show. Marilyn Bergman just died today as we are recording this. Great lyricist, married for over 60 years to her husband Alan. Speaking of In the Heat of the Night, lyrics to that great Quincy Jones song, all the songs for Yentl, the Michel Legrand music, The Way We Were. I mean, their work with Streisand was extensive. I mean, they were an amazing songwriting duo, and what a love story too. I mean, over 60 years married, working together, that just almost never works in the film business. And, lovely lady, and she will be dearly missed. And I feel that, as often happens with couples married that long and that age, that Alan is not perhaps long for this world as well.
Well, they've been walking hand in hand for all this long.
Speaking of ages, we did this in email too. We were making mention. I mean, Steven Spielberg is 75. Woody Allen is 86. Ridley Scott and Morgan Freeman are 84. William Friedkin is 86. Even Meryl Streep is 72. Gene Hackman is 91, pushing 92. This is a whole generation that is going to age out in the next 10 years.
Lou Gossett Jr. I mean, we go through. What's amazing is how many of them. I think Gene Hackman has retired, but Clint Eastwood is still out there swinging.
Yep.
Lou Gossett Jr. still out there swinging. Betty White, right up until she actually dropped dead, still out there swinging.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of amazing that Woody, working when allowed, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of amazing. And yes, they're all way at the back. And Peter Bogdanovich, he was more or less still working. I mean, he wouldn't not working. Still busy. Old man. Not Reiner, but Reiner. And Brooks.
And Mel Brooks.
Both literally still working. So if that's any marker that you can actually literally, Mario Van Peebles' daddy. About a month ago.
Melvin, right to the last.
Yeah, I talked to something I ran into a documentary thing with Mario. And Mario was like, Melvin had a script open when he dropped dead. He had a script. And
it's funny you mentioned that because I was telling you before the show, I was just watching Cotton Club Redux last night, and Mario is.
Yeah, I forgot he was in that.
I think he was the other one. Yeah. I think they cut him out of the previous cut, but he's right there. All glistening chest, and anyway. This was another little bit of trivia. If anybody wants to take our cue on this, and you want to write to the Academy and tell them that maybe they should get all the people who sang James Bond songs off the stage for one last roundup at the Oscars before one of them starts to die, because they are all still alive. Yeah. No one who sang a James Bond song has passed on. The oldest is Shirley Bassey, who's 84, and she sang 3. So,
but the youngest, I think that list you sent me is like, I think the youngest was 71, maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's Rita Coolidge is 72, Lulu is 73, Gladys Knight and Nancy Sinatra are 82, Tina Turner's 81, Tom Jones is 81, Tina Turner's 82, Shirley Bassey's 84, Paul McCartney 79, Carly Simon 76, and if you want to go off canon, the Lanny Hall, who sang the theme for Never Say Never Again, is 77. Now, obviously, that doesn't include, all the recent ones, Madonna and who else. But these are the ones that are like on the edge, and I say get those. Shirley Bassey's as healthy as can be, and same with the rest of them. Nancy Sinatra, I'm not so sure about, but get them on stage, man. They're all still around.
I'm telling you, look, if somebody doesn't do something just with the fact of that. That's just do something. Just with the fact that the fans out there, some clever person, we just told you something really interesting. Send us a link to the interesting little piece of media that you make out there.
Well, I'm gonna roll here and just get some of this music stuff off our plate real quick. We got before music. I'm gonna make mention of the World Series stuff. The Atlanta Braves won the World Series last year under rather messy circumstances. I prefer to be the Dodgers. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but whatever. There's a couple of releases from the wonderful people at Shout and Major League Baseball. We've got the single disc 2021 World Series. Basically the regular main primary disc, which has Blu-ray and DVD discs in it. It's got, the official World Series film, season highlights, and things like that. And then if you want to go a little more hardcore, you get the collector's edition, which features the documentary and all the stuff that's on the other disc, plus, multiple audio options like, for TV and home and radio, away radio, Spanish language broadcast. It includes all of the World Series games, the 6 complete World Series games, and the complete NLCS Game 6 as well. So that's a much more complete set. So both of these are out, and get whichever one fits your fancy if you're an Atlanta Braves fan. And then we've also got on the music front a whole bunch of great things. We've got Eric Clapton, The Lady in the Balcony Lockdown Sessions, which is a Blu-ray and CD combo set. This is all part of a live performance that he did in February 2021. These live shows at the Royal Albert Hall in London were canceled because of the pandemic. So what he did was he just brought his band together separately in the countryside, and they did their own recording. Right? They just figured the Royal Albert Hall performances aren't happening, but we're still going to do this for the world. And anyway, they put this album together, and it's wonderful. And the Blu-ray is great, but the music's great to listen to anytime. They do Layla, River of Tears, Man of the World, Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out, Got My Mojo Working. I mean, and you're going to recognize all this stuff. So it's really, really wonderful. And I want to give a shout out to the rest of his band, Chris Stainton, Nathan East, and Steve Gadd. Really, really a nice release. Got a couple of great Time Life sets here as well. Wasn't able to get these in the gift guide, but we've got Dolly, the Ultimate Collection, which is 6 DVDs. Dolly Parton, Woman is Ageless, absolutely amazing. This is 11 episodes of her 80s variety show. Her London concert from 2009, a Christmas disc, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. The BBC documentary from 2019, Here I Am. Really, really lovely. If you can't get enough of Dolly Parton, you're just going to love it. And then we also have The Best of Cher, which is a 5-disc set, pretty much the same kind of stuff. 10 episodes of her show, which includes, tons of great.
Sometimes people forget about that Cher show. You think about the Sonny and Cher show, but Cher had a show.
She had her own show. Oh, yeah. In fact, I kind of like her show better than the one she did with Sonny. And it's funny. I like Sonny and Cher independent of each other more than I like them together.
That's funny.
It's a very weird thing. But anyway, no, there's a lot of great stuff here. TV clips, Dick Cavett interview, just really, really wonderful stuff. Interviews with Bob Mackie and George Schlatter, all talking about her costumes and producing her. And then we've also got an interesting little 2 DVD set here. This is a TV movie thing called Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner and Friends. It's not my favorite thing. This is from MPI, but as long as we're talking about Dolly, it's kind of. I mean, I shouldn't say a TV movie. It's like just variety stuff, but it's kind of vintage. It's young Dolly, and I don't particularly like this Porter Wagoner guy. Do you know who Porter Wagoner was? Am I a country for not knowing?
I'm from Missouri, Holmes. So yeah, I know who Porter Wagoner is. Porter was the guy that wore those suits, very loud, very Western, with the danglies from them and with the boots and the whole thing, and he had the blonde pompadour. That's Porter. Okay. And that was not his name, Porter Wagoner, for God's sake.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, anyway, basically, this is like, I guess, TV in 1967, late 60s. He had a TV show. Dolly came on to be part of the TV show, and that's basically what this is. But
she has always credited, to her, to this day, Dolly Parton will credit Porter Wagoner for giving her start.
Good for her. That's what this is. But I recommend the other Dolly set. This one has Porter Wagoner, and he's a little.
Yeah, weird. He was kind of like the Liberace of country music.
There you go. That's what bugs me. I knew something bugged me. We also have Genesis, The Last Domino. This is all kind of a behind the scenes thing for the Last Domino tour. And it involves obviously a lot of dealing with COVID and everything else. And
Genesis doesn't Phil Collins and those guys?
Yes, and I'll say the one thing that I found, I mean, it's very interesting. And it's nice to see Genesis putting it back together, and the show looks great and all of that. Phil Collins obviously not playing drums because he physically is not able to. He's had a lot of physical challenges in the last few years.
Was it MS? I can't remember.
It's something degenerative. It's something degenerative. But that's the thing that I found really deeply troubling about this is just seeing what has happened to Phil. He's not the Phil Collins we remember. Yeah. And so it's great that they're getting the band back together and doing this tour and prepping it, and it's very impressive. But there's a sadness to it as well. And then just kind of fly through a few more things from the people at Naxos. We got a few great classical music tidbits to throw your way. Idil, Biret, Beethoven playing the sonatas, Pathetique, Moonlight, Waldstein, Appassionata. This is on DVD, not Blu-ray. There's also an Ode to Joy bonus performance. Idil, Biret, absolutely wonderful. Then we've got the Taming of the Shrew as a ballet with the Ballet of Monte Carlo, choreographed by Jean-Christophe Maillot. This is from Opus Arte. I don't know that I really get Taming of the Shrew as a ballet, but I'm sure it works for somebody. Shostakovich wrote the music. I kind of prefer it just as a play. I like ballet, but this one's a little bit strange to me. Another Blu-ray from Opus Arte, Offenbach's Barbe-bleue. By the Lyon Opera. I used to live near Lyon. It's a very lovely opera they have there. It's a nice big city, second biggest city in France, unless you count Marseille's suburbs. It's an ongoing debate. But anyway, Offenbach, not my favorite opera guy, but this is nicely done. It's kind of a modern interpretation of it. DVD only, also from Opus Arte, from the Royal Opera House, is Strauss's Der Rosenkavalier, with the Royal Opera Chorus and the orchestra of the Royal Opera House. Kiri Takanawa, beautiful, beautiful performance, wonderful vocals. And then from, here, the original three tenors. Carreras, Domingo, and Pavarotti, conducted by Zubin Mehta, in concert, Rome, 1990. This is from C Major and Decca. This is absolutely beautiful. On Blu-ray, don't miss it if you want to revisit that amazing evening in 1990 in Rome. This also includes the brand new documentary From Caracalla to the World, which puts everything in perspective. But this is one of the great evenings of all time. If you do not own any classical music on Blu-ray, this is a great place to start. Midsummer Night's Dream is a ballet version, and more Shakespeare turned into ballet. This is a ballet of Midsummer Night's Dream by John Neumeier and the Hamburg Ballet, very loosely based on Shakespeare. They take a lot of very kind of avant-garde, postmodern liberties with it. And the music is sort of an interesting mix. It includes Ligeti, the guy who wrote all that weird stuff that Kubrick used to use in 2001 and The Shining. It's a little bit strange, but it's okay. Placido Domingo at the Arena de Verona, doing famous arias by Verdi and Giordano, along with Sayao Hernandez and the orchestra of the Arena di Verona, conducted by Jordi Bernacker. It's lovely. It's just Domingo doing his thing. Let's see, what else do we have here? Jules Massenet Thais, with the Orff Radio Symphony Orchestra and Arnold Schoenberg Choir. This is the Opera House in Vienna. Then we've got Bruckner and Wagner compositions with the Salzburger Festspiele. Let's see, this is all Unitel. Four live ballet performances. Martin Schlapper, Hans van Manen. This is also the with live music by Franz Liszt. This is a little bit avant-garde, kind of more modern dance stuff with song. I didn't quite get it. It's not my thing, but you know, somebody will really vibe to it. And lastly, on the Naxos front, we've got DVDs only, a Rossini opera called L'Occasione fa il ladro. Didn't really watch much of this. I didn't really get it, but I'm sure somebody will. Rinaldo Hahn opera called Ciboulette, which is very nicely staged. Seems to be kind of deliberately kind of funny. This is done with the opera in Toulon, the symphonic opera in Toulon, where I did live, and I never had any idea there was an opera house. I don't know. I don't know what that says about me. Rossini's L'Equivoco Stravagante. I'm sure I'm murdering all the Italian here, but you know.
Better you than me.
Yeah, and Jean-Baptiste Lully's Atys, A-T-Y-S. And then lastly, Jean-Joseph Casanea de Mondeville, an opera called Titon et l'Aurore. Never heard of it. Don't really know what to make of it, but you know, for the opera fans out there, there you go. That's your opera scratch and your ballet scratch.
Boom, boom.
Tim, should we talk about the fourth?
Yeah, man, because for one thing, I noticed Two Evil Eyes.
Two Evil Eyes, Dario Argento and George Romero.
Yeah. 1990. I did the. I wrote about those movies, that set of movies based on the Edgar Allan Poe. They're Adrienne Barbeau and Harvey Keitel, and you know, those were pretty cool, kind of Americanized, giallo.
It's very interesting that George Romero and Dario Argento would come together on something like this. This is from Blue Underground, who's doing so much great, really cool, culty stuff. Full 4K Ultra HD looks, so good that you can tell it's fake blood. I don't know what it is about blood in Dario Argento movies. Yeah. But it doesn't look like blood that I
no, and it never did and was never meant to, and it is purposeful there, and plus Adrienne Barbeau. I was going to say that again.
Yeah, there you go. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. Well, it is, and Harvey Keitel. I mean, it's certainly an unusual film, and Martin Balsam is in this too. E.G. Marshall as well as John Amos.
Yeah.
So lots of extras here, most of them on disc too, but it's all, interviews and a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, but primarily interviews with just about everybody, including Pino Donaggio, which is very nice. Before we get to the biggie here, Juice.
Man, 1992, did the junket for that too. My first time sitting down across from Tupac Shakur.
And my wife worked as an accountant on a Tupac Shakur film.
Bullet, yeah,
with Mickey Rourke at one point too. Really a fascinating guy. One of those just troubled artists who just brings so much. Like the art comes from the baggage, but the baggage hinders the
life. Well, literally shorten the life. It was the day that I talked to Tupac Shakur. He was 19 and I was 29. I was literally a decade older than him. And I realized that we was over at that hotel on Hillgard, that fancy hotel on Hillgard at the corner of Hillgard and LeConte in Westwood, not far from UCLA. And I was sitting down to talk with. I had already talked to Ernest Dickerson and Omar Epps and all those other kids that were in Juice. Tupac's first movie, Ernest Dickerson's first movie. And Tupac had a swagger. And I won't go into the specific things that he said as he entered the room, but they were things that I knew that as a 29-year-old black man I would never say walking into a room full of white people. Tupac not only said them, he said them really loud. And then he sat down, and we had this wonderful conversation in which he quoted passages from. Because he played Hamlet at that high school with Jada, and he quoted all of that kind of stuff in Macbeth, and not only just quote them, but actually understood what they were about. And we talked about all kinds of things, and I thought to myself, this is a new generation of young black men. He's not from the NAACP, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, Martin Luther King generation. He's from a different generation. And this is the thing that's true about that generation. They did not care what anybody thought about them or expected from them at all, even a little bit. Not black people, not white people, not anybody. They were going to live their lives full, whole, and complete. Interesting that 30 years earlier, Sidney Poitier was making the exact same point. In a different way. And these kids were just louder and had wilder haircuts. So I don't know, it's a super interesting thing.
So many contradictions in him, and they all kind of come out in this performance. I mean, it's a hell of a film, and I'm glad it's on Blu-ray. I mean, it's it's one of those films I wouldn't have expected to show up on Blu-ray, but it's got a lot of great featurette stuff on here. Obviously, music video and some interviews and EPK type stuff. Really very interesting commentary with Ernest Dickerson, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Who migrated from being Spike Lee's cinematographer to directing with this film and does a great job putting his own stamp on it. And, this is a tougher, more rugged film than I think even Spike would have.
Oh, yeah. But all these people went on to have careers. Omar Epps and Queen Latifah's in that movie. And
then we've got Dune,
oh, man.
which you can watch on HBO Max, or you can get it on the 4K Ultra HD and throw it up on Movies Anywhere. And I'll tell you, I watched the I took a look at the streaming the stream that is available on HBO Max versus the on-call stream you can pull up from Movies Anywhere versus the on-call stream from Apple and the on-call stream from Vudu. It's very interesting. I think Apple looks better than all of them. I think Vudu looks second best, HBO Max next, and then Movies Anywhere last. Oddly enough.
Well, what's the nature of? Are we just talking about resolution?
Compression. It's just a compression. It's all of them are 4K. Obviously, the disc looks the best. The sound is the best from the disc. If you want to really come close to experiencing this anywhere close to IMAX, and nothing will equal the IMAX version of this, which is just blows you out of the back of the theater. But you got to get the disc. It's still a very impressive film. But let's talk about this for a second, because this is considered one of the Oscar front runners and whatnot. But Tim, how do you feel about Dune?
Well, so that Dune, and then David Lynch's Dune, and then I suppose you got that TV Dune with whoever,
which my wife also.
And so these Dunes we have, right? So and it's funny. So after watching that Dune, I decided to go back and watch David Lynch's Dune. And I had a better time. Obviously, this is a much more sophisticated Dune, but I had a better time rewatching David Lynch's Dune. That was infinitely more entertaining.
And I have to say, Lynch's Dune is the complete story. This is now the beginning.
Yeah, it's going to be another one of those. Yeah.
There's going to be two more. They finally greenlit them. I don't know what they were thinking, because this thing ends on a cliffhanger. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's sort of, this is literally like a first act of something. So there's no payoff here. It's all It's all set. Yeah. So we really got I feel guilty almost even reviewing this thing. I mean, does it work? Well, I don't know. I got to see the next two films to see if it works.
Well, Avatar, the first Avatar worked, however long ago that was. I know, relatively speaking, but yet there are 2 or 3 or 4 more to come, or whatever.
Two more to come. 2 more to come.
But the first one is fine. I don't know.
I'll tell you, I kind of look at Peter Jackson, who has not really made anything other than Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films for the better part of the last 20-some years, and I'm not sure I'd want to do that. That sounds like a case of burnout to me. Denis Villeneuve will wind up having done nothing but Dune for almost a solid decade by the time this.
Yeah, but again, Cameron has been jacking around with those avatars for what now?
Yeah.
And so for them, I don't know, it might burn them out, but I got to tell you what, they've definitely burned me out. So I'm but it's not like this isn't a perfectly, it's fine. It's fine. But I just noticed that as my attention was held much more firmly by the David Lynch film when I popped that sucker back in and got to watch him sting. And I'm like, oh wow, this I can't turn away from. The other one, I'm like, okay.
We got some stuff from Cohen Film Collection. There's a lot of great lines. Remember, Cohen owns Landmark Theatre now, so they're all in. Got a couple of releases from their Classics of British Cinema line. The first is an old Terence Young film called Corridor of Mirrors, which is a new digital restoration. Looks just freaking gorgeous. I mean, it really does. It almost, you put this on the right TV, it'll look like a nitrate print. Absolutely amazing. It's a nice period piece, an obsessive artist story. The very first film that Terrence Young ever directed. So, it's not the same guy who'd go on to do Dr. No and other things. It's very kind of neo-realistic, or not neo, but expressionistic. Sorry. It's a lovely, lovely film from 1948 and stars Eric Portman, and you ought to see it. It's fun. They also have a double feature from classics of British cinema, which also features Eric Portman in Wanted for Murder, as well as Dirk Bogarde in Lewis Gilbert's Cast a Dark Shadow. These are British film noirs, which are kind of, they're basically like American film noirs, except people behave better. That's maybe the only way I can put it. But the camera angles are great. The stories are really cool. The scripts are terrific. The performances are just spot on. Really, really fun stuff. But I especially just like Dirk Bogarde in Cast a Dark Shadow. Dirk Bogarde has one of those faces that's just, it's both innocent and evil at the same time. And just such a gifted actor. From the Merchant Ivory Library, we have Pierce Brosnan, The Deceivers.
Oh, yes.
Which I think is, takes place in India, and it's one of those, jewel in the crown type British Empire things. But I actually think this is a really, really sharp.
Oh, yeah. Late 80s,
yeah. This ages much better in my memory than I remember it, and I really like it quite a lot looking at it in hindsight. It was not directed by James Ivory. No. It was a Merchant Ivory. Ismail Merchant produced it. And Nicholas Meyer, that's right, Nicholas Meyer of Star Trek II fame directed it. But it's certainly one of his better films. And Pierce Brosnan looking dashing.
Wonderful and then East Indian.
It's really good photography. And then last one from the Cohen collection is a Classics of American Cinema digital restoration of It Happened Tomorrow with Dick Powell and Linda Darnell. And, I'm a big Dick Powell fan. Tim knows that. A lot of reasons for that. I've grown to be very familiar with Dick Powell's oeuvre. This was directed by René Clair, the famous French director. And it's quite charming. This is he was not able to go back to France during World War II, so he made some films in the U.S., and this is one of them. And Dick Powell just always tremendously charming and sweet, and Linda Darnell, really underrated actress again. So It Happened Tomorrow, really, really fun. French art house director doing wonderful things with an American cast. Tim, let's get into the Criterions here. First up, the immortal Red Shoes on 4K Blu-ray combo set. The Red Shoes have never looked.
Oh wow, Alan Pressburger. Oh man, this movie. Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. This is, I think, is this Martin Scorsese's favorite film?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I think so. Because obviously. His editor, Thelma. Thelma, married to Michael Powell.
Right. That's right. That's the connection. I always forget that. Well, no, this is absolutely gorgeous. Not really considered a musical, even though it kind of is, but just Technicolor galore, and the 4K transfers from the 2009 restoration. So it is amazing. Audio is uncompressed mono, which is a little bit weird. So if you have a home theater, you might want to kind of tweak with your setup to get the audio coming out of all of your front speakers, the sides and the center, so you get the real full benefit of it, because it's really a nice mix as well when the music kicks in. Tons of extras on this thing. I mean, it's, you can't even get into it, but there's the 2000 making of documentary. Lots and lots and lots of stuff on here. There's an interview with Thelma Schoonmaker, which I didn't even bother looking at. That's from the 2009 Cannes Film Festival. There are audio recordings, which is really interesting, of Jeremy Irons reading excerpts from the novelization of The Red Shoes, and it's kind of weird. It's fine, but it's very strange, especially if you watch the film first. And then there's an animated film from 1948 called The Red Shoe Snatches. Which is pretty cool. So, a lot of really interesting stuff on here for just this legendary film. And then we've got we were talking recently about Gordon Parks with the passing of Melvin. And I remember I asking you, being that Melvin is from Parks Jr.'s generation, Gordon Parks preceding him, which is the more significant Renaissance man as far as the civil rights moment is concerned. And you said Melvin, which I thought was really interesting. Because Gordon predates
he does
rather significantly. Fascinating life, the learning tree based on his own autobiography.
Yeah.
And then he made a movie of it in 1969, which kind of, comes around right about the same time there is Sweet Back. And, I always found that interesting. But the learning tree gets the Criterion treatment. Yeah. And there's a great new documentary on Gordon Parks out, which I just thought was so fascinating. But this is an absolutely beautiful movie. I mean, I think the learning tree totally.
Particularly the cinematography, that opening sequence with the tornadoes set in Kansas in the 20s was just as gorgeous. And of course, Gordon would be adept in the sort of visual landscape that he captured, coming from still photography as he did, one of the first African American. For Life magazine, the first African American to direct a studio film. This is a studio film. The Learning Tree. So he did. So a lot of the first there. And it is autobiographical, and so the script and some of that stuff. But a very, very powerful movie. I just remember as a kid, that was one of the films that they actually brought on 16 millimeter reels and showed to us. I would have been 8 in the Learning Tree, and I loved that it was about a sort of young black boy sort of forced to grow up too soon, but it just had a lot of meaning for me and still does. Anything on that thing? Is that a part of the Criterion?
Oh, it's just so much stuff. There's a documentary on the making of the film with Rhea Combs and Diane Archer, Ernest Dickerson, and Nelson George. There's a new conversation moderated by Michael Gillespie between Hank Willis Thomas and art historian Deborah Willis, which is all about Gordon Parks' influences culturally and artistically, and it's very interesting. There's also a movie makers featurette on here, and there's a documentary, My Father, Gordon Parks, that was done on the set of the film by Gordon Parks Jr., who, of course, as many people may not know, died tragically when he was scouting locations for Shaft in Africa, I think it was.
Directed.
Very, very
directed.
And, Gordon Parks himself would go on to do, that's right, Gordon Parks Jr. did Superfly, Gordon Parks did Shaft. Very interesting generational split there. I mean, a couple of 1968 films that Parks was involved with, The World of Peary Thomas and Diary of a Harlem Family. And then there's a wonderful 1963 life photo that he did, which is which was excerpted from his 2005 book. So I mean, there's a ton of stuff on here. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's a historic film. It's a beautiful film. It's a poetic film. And then we've got One Night in Miami. Gets the Criterion treatment right out of the gate, which doesn't happen to a lot of films, and I'm thrilled. This didn't get a whole lot of love from the Oscars, but I thought it deserved a lot more. Regina King's directing debut knocks it out of the park. Absolutely terrific film with a great screenplay by Kemp Powers, who also wrote the Pixar film. What was it?
Soul.
Soul, thank you, Soul. But anyway, One Night in Miami is based on his actual play. Did you ever see the play?
I did not. I did not see the play. I interviewed him, and we had a really interesting conversation. Of course, he adapted his own play, and he spoke specifically about how he was able to put so much more into the script for the film, which Regina.
That's what I was wondering. Because Regina really makes it. Yeah. She does it. What I thought was amazing was she directs it very classically, but she preserves the play stuff, the character interactions, but she's able in certain places to open it up. Like, you get to the Ali Frazier fight, right? You're there for that. And there's a wonderful little bit of sound work that she does where the sound, this crossfade with the sound. I mean, there's some really wonderful technical filmmaking here. But yet she understands her bread and butter is these four characters. And this is actually kind of a fictionalized story, for those who don't know, about an actual moment when, after that famous Muhammad Ali fight, right before Cassius Clay becomes Muhammad Ali officially to the cameras, where Sam Cooke and Jim Brown and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali were hanging out together at the same motel.
Yeah. A segregated motel. Yeah.
A segregated motel, and this sort of theorizes as to what did those four people talk about. And I think it's an amazing, I'm sure the real conversations were very different, but man, this is really good. And I think the casting is amazing. This Eli Gorey, who plays Muhammad Ali, is phenomenal.
He was fantastic. A bunch of really great performances, but he is fantastic.
Oh, he is so good. I mean, look, I love Leslie Odom Jr. I think Aldous Hodge and Kingsley Ben-Adir are all really, really good. I think that it's just a terrific cast. But Eli Gorey is the one that stands out because we already have not only like 50 years of Muhammad Ali burned into our brains as to what he looked like and talked like and what his body was like, but we have Will Smith's transformation into Muhammad Ali also burned into our heads from that Michael Mann film. So now we are going to compare this poor kid not only to the real Muhammad Ali, but to Will Smith doing Muhammad Ali. How are you going to measure up? If I'm this kid, I mean, what is he, 22, 21 years old, something like that. If I'm this kid, I'm like, I'm tapping out. I don't want that.
Yeah, but he did.
No, he did it. He rises to the occasion. He makes it his own. He is absolutely wonderful, and I tip my hat to him. He's absolutely spectacular. A lot of great stuff on this as well. The usual Criterion assortment of stuff. But there's a bit with Regina King and all the actors, which I say you got to sort of deal with that. That's just fantastic and a great conversation between Regina King and Casey Lemons. Really, really interesting. So I recommend that as well. Where do we go from here?
I think we are going into that classic fix. You got the Little Rascals, a 3-volume set.
Oh, yeah.
Restored there.
Yeah, let's do some classic flick stuff. Little Rascals, 3 volumes. Restorations, 1, 2, and 3 from Classic Flicks. That is Classic Flicks with X at the end. You can go to classicflix.com and check this stuff out. Yeah, these Little Rascals restorations, and we're going to have more coming, are pretty great. They look really
gorgeous, aren't they? Yeah.
The Little Rascal stuff that's been released previously is all mostly public domain. It's on DVD. It looks like crap. It's been transferred from, somebody's 16 millimeter triple dub in the basement that got rained on and flooded somewhere in Nebraska. So Classic Flicks finally just grabs this stuff, and they've really, really done a great job cleaning this stuff up. I have to say, watching this again, and I grew up on these things. I find them absolutely charming. You've got 11 separate shorts on each of these. And I have to say, Spanky was too...
He might have been a little chubby.
Watching this now, there's a part of me, because, we're all about health. And you don't really see obese kids that age anymore. At least not where I live, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, ooh, child service.
There's a problem.
What's going on?
There's a problem with the kid there.
I mean, was Hal Roach like was he doing a number with the craft services table? Was he feeding the pork? I mean,
look, you couldn't get away with Fat Albert. Anymore either. First of all, you couldn't call that kid Fat Albert. Yes, that would be so inappropriate. And then there's, of course, the problem that Fat Albert weighs 300 pounds. What the hell are we doing?
Oh, man. But I'll tell you, Jackie Cooper, seeing little Jackie Cooper so he's wonderful as a kid. And, my Jackie, I didn't grow up with Jackie Cooper here. I grew up with Jackie Cooper.
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah, right, as the editor of the paper,
Daily Planet
and Superman. So, when you see that face imposed on a little kid and you realize what a great actor he was, just so...
Was Dean Stockwell a rascal? Dean Stockwell was a rascal, was he not?
Yeah. He was. Dean Stockwell was a rascal, and so was Robert Blake from the very, very last class. Those have not yet been...
we lost Dean not too long ago, but okay, interesting. Robert Blake's still
in. So more will be released, but boy, these are pretty great, and, early talkies, and they're a whole lot of fun. Also from Classic Flicks, we have the Abbott Costello Show Season 1 on Blu-ray, looking great. This is from 3D Film Archive and Classic Flicks, working also with the Library of Congress. Some really funny stuff here, 26 episodes in a 3-disc set. The other seasons soon to come. They have been released before, but they look better now than ever. And then we got some old movies on Blu-ray and DVD. 1 on Blu-ray, 2 on DVD. I wish they were all on Blu-ray, but they can't do it, I guess. This is all from the Silver series of their movie classics. The one on Blu-ray is World War II spy thriller called International Lady, which I had never seen before. Actually quite fun. Not, amazing, from 1941. Kind of a World War II is underway. The United States has not yet entered the war, so this is kind of a spy thriller designed to be a little bit of a propaganda film, and deals with these saboteurs and an FBI agent working with a guy from Scotland Yard played by Basil Rathbone. I mean, it's fine. It's fun and a little bit mindless and does the job. And then on DVD only, we've got a screwball comedy called Young and Willing from 1943, and then a romantic western called Silver Queen from 1942. And these are a little bit kind of unknown films, but they're worth checking out as well. George Brent, who's also in International Lady, is a star of Silver Queen. And there's some fun stuff in Young and Willing as well. Mainly because it's got a young William Holden, Hayward, and Eddie Bracken in it. So it's a really, really good cast. So you might want to check that out. And that's that for classic flicks.
Cool. Film Detective. Flight to Mars. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, go ahead. Well, Flight to Mars is the biggie.
Yeah, 1951. I just always dug that film. I just thought it was a lot of fun. So what's on that? That's Film Detective.
Only a few special features. It's a 4K restoration. It's a Blu-ray, but it's a 4K restoration. A couple of documentaries. One, Walter Mirisch, From Bomba to Body Snatchers and Interstellar Travelogues, Cinema's First Space Race. That's very interesting. Walter Mirisch, by the way, is 100 years old. He made it. He made it to where, we're hoping that. Oh, and by the way, we should point out today is as we are recording this, is the 99th birthday of Larry Storch.
Larry Storch.
Corporal Agarn also started with Forrest Tucker, his F Troop star on the original Ghostbusters TV show, which has nothing to do with Ghostbusters. But that was a Sid and Marty Krofft thing. But yeah, he's 99 today. No, Walter Mirisch is 100. So that's all there is on this. But yeah, this was one of Walter Mirisch's genre pieces, and it's kind of cool. The effects really do hold up, don't they? Yep. Yeah, there's an audio commentary by Justin Humphreys. Then we also have Hercules and the Captive Women. I don't even know what to say. Couldn't make
no. You can't even have that title there.
You just can't. This was from that era of Hercules movies, 1961. It's one of those Italian Hercules movies. Yeah. They were basically doing spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, togas.
It's there's just nothing that works on this thing. It makes no sense. These are just excuses for Italian bodybuilders to get work and for Italian women to wear as little.
I think that's what. Because I used to ask, why am I watching all these Hercules movies? And then I realized, it's because these women are wearing. That's why I'm watching these movies. That's what's going on.
The artwork alone just makes me laugh. I mean, it makes me so laugh, and I have to describe this. There's a tagline: "Could she subdue this giant of a man with her sorcery?" And here's the picture. You have a picture of a man from behind, waist down, wearing like one of those little Roman, right? So like just barely below his manly parts. And he's holding an upside down goblet with the wine dripping out of it. And through his legs, you see this woman with her hand in a bikini with her hands bound behind her back and her head conspicuously right peering up at his groin. It is so risque. I'm looking at this. I'm like, did they actually advertise it with that artwork? Are you kidding me?
It was on the wall in front of a theater. That's fantastic.
Oh, my goodness gracious. And then we've also got an old movie from Film Detective called A Life at Stake with Angela Lansbury and Keith Andes. This is, one of those Angela Lansbury movies that nobody's ever heard of. But it's from 1955. It's perfectly fine. It's a little indie production that kind of a mystery thriller, quasi-noir thing. It's got a lot of noir cliches in it, but it's okay. Angela Lansbury's not exactly a femme fatale, but she does a good job. And there's some great extras on here, including a commentary by a film scholar named Jason Ney, or Nye, N-E-Y. And it's good. It's good. Let's talk for a second about these Mill Creek VHS throwback jobs that they always do, where make it, like they make it look like an old VHS.
Love those.
Kevin Sorbo as Cull the
Conqueror.
I had that's what got him Hercules.
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
Oh yeah. That was what did you say? Mid 90s or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Tia Carrere, all those. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I've totally forgotten. I thought Hercules was the first thing that he did, but no, it was Cull.
No, Harvey Weinstein. He looks exactly like Hercules, but yeah, Cull.
Well, that's what did it. He was good without a shirt. Casual Sex.
Oh yeah, Leah Thompson
was. Yeah, the thing I remember about this is that Dice Clay basically stole the movie by being the pig that constantly in his But Victoria Jackson right off of SNL with this, and Leah Thompson. I guess Ivan Reitman produced this. It's kind of funny.
Well, I don't know if it holds up, but at the time, 1980, whatever the heck it was a cute little sexy movie. Sort of putting women at the center of a story about, casual sex. These women want to have a little fun without all the stuff. Mary Gross, I remember, was in this movie, really sexy.
I see Mary Gross I used to see Mary Gross all the time before the pandemic. You see her all the time at the market. Another SNL veteran, sister of Michael Gross from Family Ties. And then the last two here, and I love how they put the stickers, those stickers that used to always be on VHS, the rental store. We've got Splitting Heirs and
Renegade. Jack Shoulder film,
I want to say you probably
I did the junket for that for sure. Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond, Jamie Gertz, all of whom were like big. What is this, like 89, 99, so whatever. All these were big movie stars at that time.
89, dude. 89. Yeah, there was. Yeah, that was quite the time. I remember that. It's not bad. It's got, it was one of those Regency productions at the time. And then Splitting Heirs, kind of a weird comedy. Eric Idle.
Oh, Rick Moranis,
Very young Catherine Zeta-Jones and Barbara Hershey with not much to do, and John Cleese completely miscast. This is a weird movie. Very, very strange movie. Robert Young directed for some reason. I don't know. It's like, this is one of those movies from the from like the 80s, 90s period where I look at it and I just think, how did those people and that material all come together? I don't understand. That would never happen today.
Absolutely.
It just wouldn't. But anyway, very, very kind of a weird anomaly, but there it is. Should we do some?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Creepshow season 2.
Season 2 of Creepshow.
How do we feel about Creepshow?
I'm not a big Creepshow fan. None of the sort of recreations of any of the great shows of my youth make me happy.
Yeah, this is an AMC series, part of the Shudder empire of stuff. This has like a Creepshow animated holiday special on it. I'm not sure why anybody would watch that. 11 tales on this Blu-ray of season 2. I think the original Creepshow movie was fine. I think Tales from the Crypt as a television series was fine in its first run. I feel like that there's not a lot of I don't know. I feel like it's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit to try to squeeze all these episodes out under the Creepshow brand. I don't know. It just doesn't quite work for me. But a lot of people on this thing, Kevin Dillon and Ted Raimi, brother of Sam Raimi, C. Thomas Howell. Who else is on this thing? Molly Ringwald shows up. Denise Crosby, Keith David.
Oh, real throwback.
Kiefer Sutherland, just talked about Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. I guess season 2, but there it is. Anyway, it's not my taste, but again, it wouldn't have made it to season 2 if people didn't absolutely love it.
Well, I see that Rick and Morty Steelbook from what is it? Like season 5?
Season 5. Season 5 Steelbook, Blu-ray, and a digital code, which will get you a Vudu access, if nothing else, so you can watch your Rick and Morty. I'm not a huge Rick and Morty fan. I know people who love this.
It was funny for a while, but the joke gets old.
Yeah. We also have The Prodigal Son, the complete second season. Didn't really quite latch onto this either, to be honest. I probably should have given it a little bit more time. I think I think the reason that I didn't quite latch onto it is because the whole Silence of the Lambs was the first time that we ever were exposed to the psychological aspect of profiling, right? That was the first time. And then we had a few movies with profilers. I think Denzel played a profiler in one of them, and then we had like 7 television series about profilers,
including one called The Profiler.
Including one called The Profiler.
And some of them are mystical, magical profilers. Some of them are just super Sherlock Holmesy type profilers. And this guy in this series, he's a profiler, but he can see the crime. He's kind of like Dexter, because Dexter was the killer. I guess he was a coroner or whatever it is. It was the same kind of thing. So he can see it from the perspective of the killer.
So I think it's a nice move that they added Catherine Zeta-Jones season 2. She does bring something. It's more than she does in Splitting Heirs. Thank goodness she's getting more to do. But I don't know, man. It just doesn't. It's still. I have a hard time with the concept. Maybe I'll try some more episodes another time.
What is on Eli Roth's History of Horror, season 2?
So we've got a bunch here from AMC. A lot of shows that are from AMC. That's one of them. Eli Roth's History of Horror, season 2. I think that's kind of got the same problem as Creepshow, to be honest. It just this is an anthology show of interviews. It's not horror anthologies, but it still kind of belabors the point just a little bit, I think. This has interviews with Stephen King and Quentin Tarantino and Rob Zombie and Slash, and it seems like it's a little bit feels a little bit kind of all over the map. I appreciate looking into the craft and kind of trying to pull the curtain back a little bit, but I don't know. I don't feel like I learned a whole lot, to be honest. I don't feel like I learned a whole lot that I didn't already know previously. As long as we're on other AMC shows, got a couple of seasons here of dramatic shows: Gangs of London season 1 and Discovery of Witches season 2.
I love Discovery of Witches in particular.
You know what, and let me just say, Gangs of London I think has promise. I've watched a little bit of this. I'm really kind of starting to get into it. I think there's a lot of it. Cole Meany is really good, so I think I'm looking forward to where this goes in the remainder of the shows I have to watch, and obviously another season. But let's talk about Discovery of Witches for a second. Really a good-looking show.
Elizabeth Beef in London, and it just is so gorgeous the way they shot it. Yeah, it's just so a dramatic romance, really, but it's just so well done. There are a lot of these running around. Well, some look better than others.
It's based on some books, I guess, by someone named Deborah Harkness, whose books I've never read. I'm sure books you probably love them. But I think the recreation of London, that whole Shakespearean era, Elizabethan era London, is really very sharp. I mean, it's just beautiful. 10 episodes, and they pour all of their money into the production value. It's really very sharp.
Absolutely,
very, 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 very sharp. Let's see what other things we got here. We got some PBS.
You got some PBS stuff there. It's Baptiste Grantchester.
Yeah, Baptiste and Grantchester. Baptiste season 2 on DVD, and Grantchester, the complete 6th season, is a part of the Masterpiece series. Masterpiece Mystery. Both of these, Masterpiece Mystery. You know what I love about Baptiste? It's just a great cast. Just a great cast. Chicky Cario and Fiona Shaw, two, wonderful actors that were great in movies in the 90s, and they're not doing TV as often is the case. But they're just really great actors, and I think this is just a wonderful, wonderful showcase for the two of these. Takes place in the underworld of Budapest, and Budapest is a great backdrop for anything. But Very, very cool. I like Baptiste. Grant Chester's been on for forever. Yeah. I'm growing a little bit tired of Grant Chester. Whenever I watch it, it kind of feels like they're doing the same thing. It's a little bit like Law and Order, but whatever. Let's see. What are there other fun things we hear? Tim, we got a bunch of stuff from Acorn. Tell me which of these you respond to, if any. Jack Irish, Hinterland, My Life is Murder, Miss Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries, The Heart Guy, and Whitstable Pearl.
Jack Irish is that Australian series.
It's the
Guy Pearce. That's actually That's actually pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. It's outback noir. But Guy Pearce somehow still looks the same as he did 30 years ago. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. It's an Aussie, maybe an Aussie thing. I don't know. But didn't work for Paul Hogan.
Well, Paul Hogan was old as hell when he made that first Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, he was almost 60. Paul Hogan was almost 60 40 years ago, so probably he might be 100 years old now. Hinterland. I don't know that series. What's it about?
So Hinterland was a very short series. This is a detective drama. I like it, but it's a little bit derivative. It won a whole bunch of these awards from BAFTA and some others, and it's one of those London British police dramas that gets very, very interior and goes to a remote location where that remote location can be the metaphor for all of the dark things that are happening, right? So very often it'll be like, well, they've gone to, the moor, or they've gone to some other, very remote location, or sometimes it'll be in Scandinavia or wherever the case is. And here they are in this place called Aberystwyth, I guess. Okay. And so, it's a little bit like, he spent all this time on the London police force, and now he goes to this remote place on the coast, and, he brings all of his psychological baggage with him. And, despite all of this beauty on the coast, there's something dark happening. So you get it's a little Twin Peaks-y, I guess, right? There are a number of British shows like this, but the acting is great. The acting is absolutely terrific. And Richard Harrington, who stars in this, was previously in Poldark and Bleak House. He's really, really good. He's a really, really good actor. So Hinterland, complete collection. Not on Blu-ray. It's only on DVD. But I
dig that Lucy Lawless series, My Life is Murder. She's ex-cop or whatever it is. Lucy Lawless. That's a good one too. Is that a part of the Acorn? Excuse me.
My Life is Murder, and it's funny because she doesn't even look like Lucy Lawless anymore.
Yeah, Xena warrior princess, as it were.
I know, it's kind of weird for an Acorn show, but we often forget that Lucy Lawless is not an American. No. Right? No, this takes place in New Zealand, and so she's gone back to the so she's not being Xena anymore. She's actually being an actress, and so there's an interesting angle here, which is that she's someone from New Zealand who's lived for a long time in Australia, and she goes back to her small town in New Zealand and now has to start investigating murders. And she has this woman played by Ebony Vagulans from The Heart Guy, who's her partner, and it's perfectly serviceable as far as a kind of British style mystery series that is now transposed to New Zealand. But you know what? Lucy Lawless is great. She's very different.
Yeah,
it's just not Xena. Yeah. It's not Xena.
I think it's kind of fantastic. Did we do The Heart Guy yet? The Heart Guy season 5?
We have not. Yeah, that's just on DVD. That's just season 5 of The Heart Guy, and there's not much more you can really say about that. Roger Corser is still playing the heart surgeon on this show, and it's fine. It's a freaking medical show, and they're pretty much the same the world around. But I am waiting for Roger Corser to show up in something here, some movie or something somewhere. We also have more murder mystery and Whitstable Pearl.
Oh yeah,
which is also fine. Some good acting here as well. And then Miss Fisher's Modern.
Oh, I like that one. It's set in Melbourne in the '60s.
That's what's the fashion.
Oh yeah,
fun, isn't it? Fashion's great. That one's really, really fun. This is 8 episodes in series 2, and really nice period recreation there. It's really, really good. I'm inclined to believe that Joel Jackson's character on this, the reason they named him James Steed.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, you gotta. Yeah.
I'm sure it's a nod to the Avengers. You don't do that without some deliberation. You know what? Real quickly, are there any other TV things that you want to dive into?
I think we're pretty good there.
Let's see. Just a couple of, real fast here. Let me just pull these out because these are kind of a little bit of a major thing because we're going to run out of time here momentarily. But there are 3 from the greatest teleplays of all time series, which are really interesting because a lot of this stuff, people don't realize that there used to be a thing called live where they would do these teleplays. Yeah. And there's some really, really good ones here that have been released in this series. There's a trilogy featuring Paul Newman, The Army Game, The Rag Jungle, and 5 in Judgment. David Susskind produced all of these. David Susskind, huge producer. We, get a lot of these David Susskind things. But 5 in Judgment, The Rag Jungle, The Army Game, all of them television, hour-long TV plays. 5 in Judgment's only about a half an hour. But all of them featuring Paul Newman. And really peddling his practicing his craft in the mid 1950s. And what's interesting is 5 in Judgment co-stars a young Jack Ford, looking pretty great. He's not yet, you're like, oh, that guy's gonna be on Hawaii Five-0. And then we also have Harvey, not the movie, but a TV version of it with Art Carney, Fred Gwynn, Elizabeth Montgomery, and Charlotte Rae.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right. Directed by my old professor, George Schaefer. It's funny when George Schaefer was teaching our class, he'd come out like he was hosting. And he'd talk and he'd tell us all these great stories and this and that and the other thing. And then I'd always think, but I've never seen any movies that you directed. Literally, I've never seen a thing you've directed. And you're talking about all these stars you've worked with. This is why. You worked with them all on TV, doing live TV. But Art Carney is terrific. Very different interpretation from Jimmy Stewart in the movie, and this was originally a stage play. So very, very, very fun. And then the last one is The Power and the Glory, which is very intense. Laurence Olivier, Julie Harris, George C. Scott, Patty Duke, Keenan Wynn, and Roddy McDowall. Come on. Directed by Star Trek veteran Mark Daniels.
Oh wow, fantastic!
It's great. And this takes place in the 1930s during the a period where there's a lot of tension in Mexico, and about a Catholic priest who goes to Mexico to be a bit of a missionary. And Laurence Olivier is really pretty great, with all the political and religious tumult going on in Mexico at the time. It's pretty great. And then there's like this, then somebody's coming after him to kill him, and it turns into a little bit of a noir, and it's kind of weird, but that's okay. It's pretty nicely done. Mark Daniels directs the hell out of it. So let's see, what else what else do you want to cap off with there, Tim?
Let's see. Just under new, we have a few things. Malignant, and a couple other things, just in terms of new stuff.
Oh, and Zola. Zola was kind of. Do you want to talk about Zola for a second? Because I was in the running for our awards. That kept popping up left and right, and I hadn't seen it.
I really liked it a lot, particularly that performance from Taylor Page. And Riley Keough, for that matter, too. And for that matter, also Coleman Domingo. It's sort of like this based on this sort of loosely told true story, this young black stripper who meets this young white stripper who thinks she's a young black stripper, and they go on a road trip to Florida together, and it end up in a wacky caper film. It's sort of like loosely based on a true story. And it's just a couple of great performances in a really dashing sort of bouncy film that's mostly funny. And,
I didn't get to it because nobody was raving about it, and then everybody started voting for it on voting day, and I'm like, well, why didn't you say so? Because I would have prioritized it. But yeah, I love Taylor.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's absolutely wonderful. and Riley Keough as well, and these are some good, very talented actresses and actors, and we'll see a lot of them. Talk about *Malignant* for a second. That was another one that was off my radar, and then everybody like you and Bob Strauss and a lot of other people started.
Well, it was actually a pretty good film. Let me get my data here up on that film. It's a darker and more well constructed film, horror film than a lot of these films have been before. James Wan, of course, directing, and it's just kind of neat. So you have this woman who's just she has these visions of these murders, and they paralyze her. And it's really a very, very dark film. Now, when you're watching this film is making references to not only to other horror films, but to horror films in general. And it really gets sort of interesting in the way that these things are sort of all laid together. And you got a whole bunch of really sort of good performances. It's a neat movie.
And then there's one that Luke Thompson put right at the top of his list and recommended that I didn't pay attention to. And it's The Show, which is the Alan Moore thing, written by Alan Moore. Alan Moore, disowns almost everything that's adapted from anything he's written, but he wrote this straight up. And it's pretty sharp. I think this is really cool. It's kind of a cool, wild fever dream of a comic booky noir. Really, very psychedelic and kind of almost LSD inspired in some respects, but pretty much everything Alan Moore has some element of that.
Alan Moore, Watchmen Alan Moore, that guy.
Yeah, Watchmen Alan Moore. But I'll say this, for what it is, I prefer this to the new Matrix film immensely, because I hate that.
Oh, that Resurrections thing over there. You know what bugged me most about that film? What that film says is the investment that you put into all of the previous Matrix films, but certainly that first Matrix film. I kind of ignored the other two anyway. But basically, it says the investment that you put into that film, those characters and everything, that was completely wasted investment. Because here we are 20 however many years later, and you know what? You're still in the Matrix. Well, how about fuck you then? I can't stand that. That just really, really, really bugs me. And then it sets you up to keep you in the Matrix forever.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a betrayal that I was not fond of. Yeah. Here's a film that before we run out of time, I really want to give a good shout out to South of Heaven. One of the problems that I have with Jason Sudeikis is that he has the Will Ferrell problem coming out of SNL, right? Which is that he has a funny face. And for him to play a dramatic character he's got to invest a lot. He's got to dig himself out of your expectations of him, out of your preconceptions, out of all the baggage that we have of him doing, all the stuff that he's done, the Jersey guy on the, What Up With That sketches and all the junk that he's done. And damn if he doesn't do it. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's very impressive. He plays a guy, this is really interesting. It's a love story, basically. Jason Sudeikis and Evangeline Lilly. He's a guy that spent time in prison. And you'll find out why, because he's a nice guy, right? I mean, he's a nice guy. Like, why are you in prison? Why did you kill somebody? What got you into prison? And it's a fascinating dilemma that got him there, because he's did it out of love. And Evangeline Lilly, he's getting out now, and she's got cancer, and he wants to do right by her. But then Shea Wiggum plays this crooked parole officer. Mike Coulter plays this crime lord. And they have all of this stuff going on that drags him right back into the middle of it. And somehow, in order for him to be a really good guy and do right by her, he's got to go dark again. Yeah. He's got to go really dark. Yeah. It's a really interesting psychological journey. He does not fall prey to the funny stuff at all. I mean, he really, really, he cuts a line right down the middle. I think this is a really sharp little movie, and I don't know how well it did theatrically, obviously because of the pandemic and everything else. But man, I really urge people to check this out. South of Heaven, terrific little kind of micro noir, quasi romantic noir with Jason Sudeikis, Evangeline Lilly, Shea Wiggum, and Mike Coulter. Really good. Nice to see Mike Coulter do something other than
not just Luke Cage and or sort of just heroic guy. So I like it when he plays a little figures it a little bit dark.
Oh, he's plenty dark here. You know what? He's dark. he's dark but yet caring, because he's a family man too, you know, like he's a crime lord, but he loves his family, he loves his kid.
He's a family man who wears V-neck sweaters. a gangster who wears V-neck sweaters, I should say. But yeah,
you know, and just to wrap out real fast here, because I want this is the last thing I want to put on everybody's radar, because. And we may talk about this on the next show a little bit more. We're starting to get Shaw Brothers movies.
Oh, yeah, that thing, yeah.
Man, I'm telling you. So first of all, we've got a great release here of an old Shaw Brothers classic, Disciples of Shaolin, which is one that is far too often forgotten. Comes with a ton of extras on this thing. I think it's absolutely wonderful that they put this together. It comes out with both English and Mandarin audio on it. Lots of notes and interviews, and it's just really, really sharp. This is a real Shaw Brothers classic. Great choreography, great fight stuff, a good standalone film. However, and good for regions A and B, by the way, if you're going to be, you know, recommending this to friends in other regions. However, this is the one you got to.
Oh yeah,
the Shawscope Volume 1 boxed set, which is like my dream come true. I've been waiting for this forever. The people who own the Shaw Brothers library have not done the greatest job of exploiting it. So they're finally through Arrow, we are getting these amazing Shaw films. Thank you, Arrow. My goodness, really, really great stuff. And it's the Celestial Library. The Shaw films belong to the Celestial Library, and this is what you get on 8 discs plus 2 additional bonus discs, 9 and 10, that have, you know, like music on them, and you know, they're CDs. The last 2 discs are CDs, but the official 8 discs, the DVD, the Blu-rays contain the following films: King Boxer, The Boxer from Shantung, 5 Shaolin Masters and Shaolin Temple on 1 disc. Mighty Pig King Man, Challenge of the Masters and Executioners from Shaolin, Chinatown Kid, The 5 Venoms, amazing, with Crippled Avengers on disc 7, and then on disc 8, Heroes of the East and Dirty Ho. H-O, character named Ho, not Dirty Ho. Don't get all, you know, jump ahead of me there. But these are I mean, I can't even go into each individual film. They're amazing. They come with you know, some interviews and some commentaries and a lot of great stuff on them. It's a really, really great box set. It's amazing. It's Volume 1, so save your dimes, because there are a lot more to come. There are literally thousands of these movies, so you might wind up with hundreds of these box sets. And that's
baby.
We are done. All right, Tim. Let's hope everyone, you know, stays well and whatnot. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and hopefully nobody else dies.
Yeah. Hey, look, cheers. Hoping that, well, Happy New Year to everyone. It's, you know, it's a Happy New Year to everyone, and to all of those out there who are near 100 or over. Hang in there. I love it. Well, we got Bill Shatner. We got a whole bunch of folks. You know, yeah, man. Hang
in there, Bill.